just away from the trade war for a moment here, what do you think is going on with markets? How focused are they on this trade war in reality, or are they watching the Fed more closely in the expectation that we'll get rate cuts?
It's more on monetary policy than on trade wars, I believe. I think that markets are expecting the Fed to cut rates, if not in July, maybe in September, but definitely expecting much more dovish messages from the Fed, much more dovish messages as well from the ECB and the BOJ. And let's not forget that at the same time, we have China as well injecting liquidity. So I think that what markets are expecting is the next boost of liquidity, another January in which you get a strong message from central banks, where you will see further easing, unfortunately, because the macro environment is not responding.
So, I mean, there is an element of wishful thinking about the trade war dispute when it comes to the investment industry. And I haven't met many people that come from the industry who've said, this is going to be a disaster, it's going to lead to a meltdown for markets, this is the beginning of a technology war, not just a trade war, a clash of civilizations, etc., etc. Largely, they'll say, yeah, it could be a bit of a tense issue for a while here, but at the margin, it's not going to be that significant for underlying valuations or fundamental drivers for markets. Is that a complacent view, do you think, or does it accurately reflect the outcome and the risks associated with what's going on here? Because I'm very aware that everybody that's in this industry has a vested interest in playing down the consequences.
Of course. I think that is correct. I think that in general there is a complacent view that growth might be slightly affected, but it's going to be minimal, that valuations are supported, that growth of earnings is going to continue to be robust despite trade tensions. And this is, it's a very, very complex situation. This is not just about a few tariffs on soya or on natural gas or on aluminum. This is about technology. This is about capital controls. This is about legal security and intellectual property. This can go on for a while, and the implications are much stronger also because the weakness of both the Chinese and the Eurozone economies have absolutely nothing to do with trade wars. So we also have to understand that the weakness of the economy is not because of some tariffs, is because there's been a problem of excess of debt and very poor allocation of capital in the last 4 to 8 years.
You're not buying the China growing at 6.4% story then, and actually can weather the storm regardless. You think, again, we've talked about paper tigers and straw men and wicker men and what have you. You think it's just a fallacy, and actually behind the charade there's some real structural problems starting and ending with debt?
Well, I think that first, China's official GDP, yes, might be growing at 6.4%, but every other metric that you look at in terms of valuation, in terms of industrial production, power demand, construction, retail sales, you name it. No, we just saw imports yesterday, how they show a much weaker picture of internal demand than we would imagine of an economy that grows at 6.4%. So if you forget GDP per se, and we know how easily GDP can be sort of played around with. If you forget GDP...
It's that easy to play around with it. Why don't the Europeans play around with it?
Oh, they do, by the way. Oh, they do. Absolutely, they do.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So are we in recession in Europe?
In many countries you are. For example, yeah. If you
in
look,
Germany?
Well, in Germany you are. If you look at why Germany posted a GDP growth that was better than expected, it came fundamentally from higher government spending and from lower imports than loss of exports. Therefore, the contribution of the external sector is actually positive even when the imports are poor and the exports are weak. So the point is, GDP is a very, very sort of misleading factor in terms of just understanding economic growth alone. You need more factors. In the case of China, it is quite evident that the economy is weakening, and that the new economy, the technology sectors, all those high added value sectors are not offsetting the decline in the old economy, in the state-owned enterprise in the commodity-driven part of the economy, in the household sector. So I think that all of those factors you need to take into account and not sort of disguise everything under the banner of, oh, this is because of trade wars.